ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Courage in Crisis, Conversations of Faith and Mental Health. This is a program put on by the Moravian Church, East and West Indies Province, in response to the challenges of COVID-19. This COVID-19 has come along and has upended many of the things that we have been doing and looked at and challenged our lives in many ways. And as such, we have been having these conversations to help our members and people in general to deal with the crisis and to look at life and to live life to the full as best as they can in the season. We also believe that God wants us to live and to survive in this season, and so God always has a way for us to do that. We've been talking about many things, and so today we'll continue the conversation on managing your finances during the COVID-19 pandemic. That is not as simple as it seems. A lot of people are now experiencing that. And we have the panelists that we had from Tuesday, we have them on this afternoon again. And before I go any further, I should introduce myself as well. My name is Algernon Lewis. I am the chairman of Moravian Church, East and West in this province. And it's my pleasure to be here to be host this afternoon. Now we have out of Trinidad, Sister Joan John. She's a member of the Memorial Moravian Church in Trinidad, and she's also a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. And we have out of Barbados, Brother Mervyn Hope. Brother Mervyn Hope has been involved in finance all his life, working in the banking system, and now serves on a board of a bank. So we have two heavy hitters with us today who understand the financial system, who understand money. So please call somebody, let them know, hey, we have an important discussion. And what is also very important, if you have a particular question that you want for us to answer, you can join us by whether it's YouTube or Facebook. You send the questions through and we'll attempt to answer them. Speaking of which, we had two questions from last session. One concerned insurance payment and the other one concerns utility bills. How should we treat with utility bills in this time of COVID-19 when the finances are drying up around us? We're going to start with you, Sister Joan.
Utility bills are one of the critical bills you need to meet each month or each quarter, depending on how you are charged. I know in Trinidad, for instance, water bills tends to be, I think, every 2 or 3 months, every quarter, I think, but there are other bills that you have to pay monthly. Those are necessary because you need your lights, you need your water. So utility bills are among the critical ones to be paid. Now, in this season, of governments have offered certain, let me say, packages with regard to how you meet your utility bills. Some of them have said, for instance, that you cannot pay, you are not penalized if you do not pay your utility bill in your normal frequency. So in terms of how you treat your utility bills, one, it is something critical which you must meet subject to whatever terms that you have been given in this particular period. So treat your utility bills very seriously. You do not want to be without water and lights in this difficult period.
Okay. Brother Hope, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, if I may add to it, you can pay part payments. In other words, you do not have to satisfy the full bill. But if you show a commitment, if you show a commitment that you're going to meet your obligations, the utility companies are accepting that and will accept that. With the understanding is that you are still liable for the outstanding amounts. You will not be, well, generally speaking, like for instance in Barbados, on your light bill, your power bill, if you pay by a certain time, you are allowed a 10 or 5% discount. It is a discount which perhaps you will forego and have to pay the full bill, but as opposed to interest, let's say on when it was a bank loan. But if you can pay some and you cannot pay all, pay, because that also shows the company that you are committed, but you are still responsible for the outstanding balance.
Okay.
Just
I know
one comment there I may add is that, you know, wherever possible, you can seek to cut down on this bill. For instance, it may be possible not to keep all the lights on in your house or something like that. So you can try to manage the expenditure also.
right.
Very well said.
I'm going to come to that because that is an important thing. What I know happened in Antigua, the government was saying is that they are not going to disconnect anyone at this time of COVID-19. And so there are persons who may say, well, since I'm not going to be disconnected, maybe I can pay, as you're saying, half and just tag that along until the monies come along. So persons still have to make some decisions in terms of how they pay. And I was started thinking the other day about persons who may have, for example, you may have cable and you have the premium package, particularly that is in sports and all these other things. Is there any wisdom in probably suspending some of those things and getting a more basic package that will be cheaper? Is there any wisdom in saying, okay, I'm accustomed to having a postpaid, I'm not working now, let me put myself on a budget and say, I will spend $40 this month rather than the $80 or $100 I pay for my postpaid. How do you advise persons on some of that? Sister Joan was already hitting on that in terms of saying, watch the light bill, take off the AC sometimes, you know, that sort of thing.
No, that's great.
I think
that's sound advice.
It is something very useful. Even
I'm losing.
Sister Joan is having.
You go first. A second.
Sister Joan seems to be having some challenge with her internet. Okay, go ahead, Brother Mervyn.
Yes, that's the idea of cutting down on your packages, particularly for like cable television. It makes sense. We are doing homeschooling in Barbados, so you would probably still need to have your connectivity, for instance, for
right.
the internet.
Right, that's important.
But, I know you're spending time home, and perhaps you want to have some semblance of television. But you talked about the sports channel. The sports channel are not bringing anything now because sports are suspended. It will be old stuff or stuff, you know, pre-recorded stuff and so on. So that is one of the, like all the other expenses that we have, recurring expenses that we have, it will make a lot of sense to review all of them and, as the Calypsonians say, separate your wants from your needs.
Mm-hmm. Sister Joan, you were saying something earlier. You wanted jumping now?
Yes, that is in terms of meeting all of these expenses. Are you hearing me?
Right,
yes,
we're hearing you now. Go ahead. Yeah, your internet is slowing up just a little bit, Sister Joan, and we want to hear from you.
Expenses, and that is, yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was saying it is a very good idea. The suggestion you made is a very useful one. It is something that I myself have practiced even before COVID, in terms of relooking the package you have with your company and choosing something that costs you less.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself not really needed all of that service. So it is a very good idea to relook the services you have and determine whether in fact you need that expensive a package.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we were talking about insurance. There was a question about insurance in terms of foregoing insurance just a little bit. Can you shed any light on that? Insurance, you know, it may be difficult to pay. You may be in a particular position because you've lost your job. What do you say to your insurance company?
Okay, insurance is broad, so let's put it in perspective. Insurance covers life insurance, property insurance, in some cases, health insurance, and in other cases, vehicle insurance. Now, in terms of the life insurance, you can suspend your payments because after a certain while, your life insurance policy will accumulate a cash surrender value. Now, notice I said suspending. And the insurance company will do something which they call a premium loan. They will deduct the premium from the cash value of your insurance if you cannot pay. This is life insurance now with the one that accumulates a value. Again, you need to discuss this with your insurance agent or your insurance company. That as it relates to life insurance. Property insurance, I always advocate that you pay. This is house and contents. I always advocate that you pay this. You try to pay this all the time. I looked at the news last night, and it is scary that in the Bahamas, there's a tropical system. They already have a name for it, and it is not the 1st of June. And firstly, a lot of insurance companies will tell you that most of the properties are underinsured to start with. But if you're underinsured, at least you have some coverage. If you don't have any insurance at all, you're at the mercies of whatever. You know, you could lose everything. Anyhow, if your property is subject to a mortgage, one of the requirements of one of the terms and conditions of that mortgage is that you keep the property insured, all risk insurance, throughout the duration of that mortgage. Some companies, some banks will include in your monthly installment 1/10 of the calculated premium for the year. So you'll be paying your insurance for a year over 10 months, and then they will pay that lump sum to keep your property covered. You therefore, again, when we spoke about moratorium, this is why I was saying that even if your bank gives you a moratorium on payment for 3 months or 6 months of your mortgage, make sure that you discuss with them whether the insurance element will be covered, or if you have to cover that separately. That's a key factor, because in your mortgage agreement, part of the mortgage agreement is that you will keep the insurance covered for all risk insurance as long as there's an outstanding balance on the mortgage of your property. So insurance, you must, it's a must in terms of your budgeting. You need to keep that in the forefront of your thoughts, because you could lose everything if you do not keep your insurance up to date. Similarly, your vehicle. If you have a hire purchase note on your vehicle, you will be required to keep the vehicle comprehensive all risk insurance. There are curfews in this time as well. So if you take a chance with your vehicle and you don't have insurance, you're caught by the police officers, you can be charged for breaking the curfew. Then when they check on you, you don't have insurance coverage, and God forbid if you get into an accident. So again, if you don't owe anybody for the car to be on the road, you still need to have third-party insurance. But if you have a hire purchase note on your vehicle, you have to budget to cover the cost of the comprehensive cover for your vehicle. Health insurance, I don't know that you get any reprieve at all on health insurance, because most insurance companies will tell you that health insurance is not an attractive product, or it is very, very expensive. It is very, very expensive. So insurance is something that you must have a sense of where you stand, and the only place you can get that information from is your insurance company or your insurance agent.
All right, thank you. Sister Joan, you wanted to jump in on any part of that?
Just to say, I totally agree with that. The one point I would add is that in this COVID period, you can call your insurance company and see if they would allow you any sort of reprieve. For instance, I was able to call my company and say during the first month that there is a stay-at-home policy. We only are supposed to come out for essentials, and they agreed, because I've been with
Your internet is really acting up, Sister Joan, because we're not hearing you.
Oh, you're getting a lot of problems to hear me.
Yes.
All right.
So you were saying that you call your insurance company.
Yes, and I was able to arrange a payment arrangement with a delayed payment arrangement with them.
Okay.
So the important thing here is to discuss it with your company.
Right.
And I'm going to try to switch to another device.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, let's move on then. We want to get to a sort of more granular level. We want to talk a little bit about budgeting, and the fact that one of the ways to survive this time is to actually have a budget. A budget is what? How do you describe it? Is it like a forecast of your expenditure for the month, for whatever period it is, which says, you know, whatever line items that you are going to spend on, where you're going to get the money from, and how you're going to spend. What's the value of a budget in this particular time? Brother Mervyn, we can start with you.
Well, a budget is essential in all times. A budget gives you a startling revelation of what income and expenditure and spending is all about. Now, a budget is made up of income and it's made up of expense. But in preparing a budget, you have to be very clear of what you owe, O-W-E, and what you own, O-W-N. The other thing about a budget is that on the income side, most of us only have salary or pension. Some people might have investment, but most persons have on their income side salary, which could be made up of your weekly wages, your side hustle, or if you grow or sell something, that's on the income side. Now listen to the expense side. You have some recurring expenses. So you have light, water, telephone, cable. You have loans, which could be vehicle, mortgage,
insurance.
You could have rent. You can have hire purchase, credit card. You have taxes for your car, taxes for your property. You have vehicle running expenses. You have insurance. So you see the list of expenses as opposed to your income. The other thing is you might be paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly. Some of your expenses recur, they come every month or every quarter, like the utilities. Also your loan payments and your credit card payments. But things like taxes and your property insurance, they come on a yearly basis. You need to factor in your income, how you are going to meet this one-off lump sum payment or these one-off lump sum payments. So if you're doing your budget by month because you work monthly and you have an insurance policy that is paid yearly, like your car or your house, you need to divide that premium by 12 to include it in your monthly budget. After you have done that, you have to turn around and set aside that money for that specific purpose. Now, as good church people as well, you need to set aside your tithe. So when you're doing your budget, the first 10% is your tithe. The second 10% is your saving. Now that saving has nothing to do with the 1/12 of your insurance premium or any of the payments that you have to make on an annual basis. So it is a revelation. You put down your income on the income side. If you get dividends or something, you have to divide that by 12 as well. But the fact remains that you need to look at every single thing that you owe and every single thing that you own. There's a saying, with ownership comes responsibility. So if you have a car, you need to put gas in it. You also need to understand that the tires will not last forever. You need to pay the taxes. If you have a home, you have to pay the taxes. A window might get broken or a lock might need to be fixed. So you have the responsibility of keeping it in good order as well. So when you're looking at a budget and you look at it holistically, you need to be aware that you have income coming from 1, 2, or 3 places, but your expenses can spread over a wide gamut of things. And if you have children, you then have their upkeep, their schooling. If they're off to university, you might have their monthly upkeep, and you might still have to help them with the student loan and so on. So there are all of these things. Or you might be a student that just came back qualified, and you now have to start paying the government that student loan, and you have to juxtapose that against your wanting to buy a car and those kind of things. I will stop there and allow you to.
Right.
Question.
So Sister Joan, you've been hearing just a little bit about this budget, with all the things that this little bit of money needs to buy.
Yes. And therein is the normal challenge of a budget. But let me say, first of all, that it gets more, I was going to say easier, but let me say less difficult with practice. Now, inevitably, having listened to the long list on the expenses side, it is not surprising that very often we end up with a big shortfall. But it's good to put everything down first of all and confront your situation. And then you begin to ask yourself, what can I do to improve the income side? And what can I do to reduce the expenditure side? And there are things that you can do on both sides. While it is the case that for most people there is essentially their monthly income or bi-weekly income on the income side, there are also some small ways in which, or some small sums that we may get during the month, and we need to make sure we include any and all forms of income. On the expenditure side, we really need to separate what are wants from what are needs. And really the critical things, we need to make those payments first. It's important to see, for instance, to see about your food, your mortgage, your utility bills. But even with regard to all of these, there are ways in which we can adjust them. We can cut down our food. Most people can cut down their food bill, maybe not every month, but some months. There are things you can do with a lot of your payments in terms of going and have them rescheduled, going to your financial institutions and seeing if you can reschedule some of the payments. The important thing is that you look at your income side and your expenditure side and try to bring them in some alignment. And to the extent that they remain, in any case, if there is a shortfall, you have to be funding your expenditure from somewhere. Whether it means that you take a loan or you go and borrow from your family or you get a gift, whatever means, at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you are running up expenditures which will have to be settled in the future. And that is what you want to avoid.
Okay. So we are talking to people about cutting down expenses. I remember some time ago when I was in a different place, I went to buy something as simple as the macaroni cheese thing. And there was another person in the supermarket who I know wasn't working, but she was saying she wanted the name brand. And I was buying the store brand because as far as I was concerned, that's what I could have afforded. And so we may be saying, we may need to say to persons sometimes, rather than buying all of the more expensive brands, even though they may taste better, the reality is at this point, what was the expression? I think there's an expression, we have champagne taste on Morby pocket.
Yes.
Right? And so you may just have to stick with the Morby pocket taste until you are able to do the champagne at another time. All right. But can you say anything though? Because I believe that we need to encourage persons to also look to the income side. And how can we boost income? Persons have cooked and washed and baked and done all kinds of things like that in the years to send some of us to school. So how can we speak to persons about that sort of thing? Any suggestions you have?
Yeah, well, there's some things that persons can do. There's some people who go out and buy lunch every day when you can pack your lunch from home. There's simple things like that. You have to stay away from impulse buying as well. There are a lot of shops that sell things in bulk, and bulk buying is good for some people and it is not good for others. You have to work it out. Are you buying stuff that you will not use out for 6 months? So why buy 6 months supply of something when you can cut back on that and buy for 2 months? Are you buying stuff in bulk because when you do the arithmetic, the price per can or the price per item looks better than one item, but you buy things that you cannot use and do they expire on you? You can bulk buy again if you have a friend or family member who is willing to join with you so that you can get the wholesale price. But if you are a small family, there are some items that when you think about it, you put out your money and it just lies there in the cupboard, not being used for over 4 or 5 months. Or by the time you get to it, you don't use so much flour, but you buy a 10-pound bag of flour, and then 6 pounds of it has weevils because you can't get through it. So there's some, just by looking at how you spend, you can save some money. But when you, I mean, if you go and buy a snack box, no brand name, could you have bought a whole chicken, cook some and have it for dinner, and make a sandwich the next morning out of what has been left and carry it, rather than going and buy a snack box for what 2/3 of that chicken costs the next day and still have to come home and feed the rest of your family. So there are things like that. Do you, as a person, do you go to town and you see shoes and you buy a pair of shoes and then put them down there because you don't have the dress to match or the pants to match, but the shoes just look good when they could have stayed where they were? And I stay away from the gender thing, but you know, impulse buying, you have to be very careful with that. You know, I see that tickle my sister.
It did tickle me. Yes. Side, which to be the greater challenge, is need to explore whether there are any services we have that we can sell. For instance, that's why some people give lessons if they are teachers. Some people make things and try to sell them in the offices. Find little ways in which you can boost your income. Those are ways in which you can boost it in the short term. In the longer term, what we tend to do is to educate ourselves in some specific field to make ourselves more marketable. It tends to be a little longer term in terms of bringing you in the income. It comes like you are investing in your future and you may have to spend in the short term to get that greater gain in the long term. In fact, that is why we try to send our children to school and educate them early to give them a start off so they can boost their income level, because the income level tends to be your more challenging side. But as I say, there are things you can do in the short term by looking to see whether there are any services you have that you can provide to people. Maybe people in the office would be happy if somebody bring a food bowl for them each and sell it to them each day or something. So there are little things you can do in the short term and things you can do in the long term. But the things in the long term normally would involve some sort of educating yourself and equipping yourself to become more marketable.
Okay, great. I like that thought, and I also want to just say first, we talked the last time about having a buffer. We said 3 months of worth of salary or something that you can put down, 3 months living expenses. And we've been suggesting it. This is how you can build up that savings. But this is something I really want persons to sort of drive home to people, that you need to put something down somewhere. And it may mean becoming, you know, is every week you get paid, you take the money to the bank or to the credit union and say, this is $20 I'm putting away, and so on. That I don't want a bank card on this. I don't want any special, I don't want it online or anything. When I put it there, I want it to be far enough from me. So if a Saturday comes and something happens, I can't run and get it. I have to wait until the bank is open. So I have to keep it far. I think that's part of the discipline, to help persons to understand you are not going to save money just like that. This is going to require a strong effort, because every time something will be required. But if you just don't have it, you have to say, well, you know, my shoes mash up, I probably have to just stick them until such time as I have the funds in order to buy new ones, right?
The one thing, let me add, Revia, is that there are some reality checks that we need to make, each of us. And that is, if we are really living above our means, if for a sustained period you are finding yourself with a shortfall, you need to take stock and do something about it. And the doing something is to fix your budget.
Mhm. But how do you do that? Because that's a real situation. I see Brother Mervyn wants to say something. That's a real situation. Because if you recognize that, yeah, probably I'm living too large, maybe it's the car payment, or maybe it's the mortgage payment, or maybe it's the children in private school, or maybe some other things. And some of that will have public implications in the sense that people realize you took your children out of private school or one of those other things, and you may feel some way about that. So Brother Mervyn, you want to jump in on that scope?
Well, what this discussion is bringing out is that you need to know where you are. And the only way you can know where you are is to actually do the budget. Now, you talk about taking your children out of private school and so on. But if that is the reality, and if that's what you have to do, you might just have to bite the bullet and do it. One of the other things that people allow to slip through the cracks is how we spend windfalls, whether it is a gift, whether it is a bonus payment, or whether you got a raise of pay. Sometimes you get it and you say, oh, I didn't have this yesterday, and you do a splurge, and then it has just gone through the window. How do you treat windfalls? I spoke already about impulse buying. But these are, if you get a windfall, sometimes you don't know how much your bonus is going to be. Why spend it? Why not save it? Or why not use it to cut down your arrears, put you in a good standing so that you can either get a consolidation loan from the bank and stretch your payments. You might have 3 things paying $200, $100 each. One expires in 6 months, one in 18 months, and one in 3 years. And you could put the 3 together over 30 months and cut the installment in half. But you'd have to have an understanding of where you are financially, because the bank is going to ask you the same questions along the same line that my sister and I are putting out to you. Bring your pay slip, bring 3 months pay slip so that they can see that you are getting an income. And then they ask you how much you pay for water, how much you pay for light. And I can tell you how much a person who lives in a home with 4 occupants, what their water bill will be. A banker can tell you that because he has a house as well. So you can't fool him with those figures. So you have to be honest with yourself in terms of your budget, and then you do your own reality check, and then after that you can determine where you're going to cut down. Some people go out on a Friday evening and line with friends. There's nothing wrong with that. And you buy some drinks and snack or whatever every Friday, and you spend $40, $50. And couldn't you cut that down to one Friday and save the other 3 times 40? Is your entertainment robbing you of your savings? How much would you lose if you gave up one of those Friday evening sessions? These are real instances that you can look at. You can even think of bringing the persons to your home instead of going to a bar or wherever. Would it cost you less? So there's some things that you can do, and you will only come to grips with it when you actually put the numbers down on paper. One of the things I ask people is, and it's not being a miser or a skinflint, to write down every cent that you have spent over a period of 7 days. Anything that you purchase, if you write it down, everything. If you buy a newspaper, if you buy a snack box of whatever, write it down, everything that you spend. Because you go to the supermarket, you will go to the supermarket, you get paid by the month. You go to the supermarket and you do a shopping around payday. But you pass by the supermarket every other 2 days. If you have children, you want to buy a snack, you're going to buy bread, you're going to buy fresh milk, and those kind of things. So you need to look and see how your money is going and see where the leakages are in your expenses. And
Right.
you will only find that out when you plug the leak.
Right. Thank you. Sister Joan, you have a comment, and then we are going to just tie this off because we're out of time as we help persons with this.
Yes. And the last point made about writing is important, because we think one thing, but when you document it, sometimes it surprises us what we are doing. That's one thing. The second thing is that a lot of it is our mindset. And so we need to look, we need to believe that we can make things, we can make our ends meet. Let me put it like that. And therefore, if you write things down, you are able to look at it more clearly and see where you can make the adjustment. And also, note that lots of things that we think we need, you come to realize that they are not so important, so that writing it down also helps us to take a look again as to what is really important.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any closing comments at all? While you're thinking about your closing comments, I also just want to say to the person when it comes to money, from a biblical standpoint, that God really calls us, yes, Brother Mervyn mentioned the tithes and offerings are giving to God. As a part of God has given life to us and given us abilities, and then we give to God and say, God, we ask that you watch over the others. That is good practice, but it's also, all the stuff that we're talking about is also good practice, because you can't just say, well, I gave my tithe and I can spend everything else, because you still end up with nothing. Because God wants us to use what we have with wisdom. Say, cast your bread upon the water, and we'll come back speaking about investments. Because we have to think about the investments that we make, the way we spend our money, so it's not just going out and never coming in. But God wants indeed to bless us in our going out and our coming in. Bless our needing bowl and all our families, so that we will have sufficient. And there are some families maybe in a spot of difficulty right now and saying, but I've given my tithes and offerings and things are rough. I want to say to somebody who may think that, I've given in a time when I had and now I don't have any. But indeed, God will look out for you. God will take care of you. Any closing remarks from either of you, and then we will close off.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Yes,
I will
go.
start by, but let me close by saying budgeting is a personal thing. And personal meaning, let me say an individual thing in terms of you and your family. So that your particular circumstance will not apply to somebody else. So it is important that you look at your income, your expenses, and look and see where you can make adjustments. If it is you find that you cannot make adjustments, it is important that you speak to somebody you can trust, because somebody looking from the outside can possibly guide you in terms of how you can make that adjustment. And paying tithes, let me just add, would not make you worse off. It does, because God really does provide. And I'm not sure how to convince people about this, but particularly for the older people, I am sure their experiences would have shown them that when they had nothing, God did provide.
Amen. Brother Mervyn?
Yes, I just want to affirm what our sister has said. I also want to say that it has really made me look at myself, and anything that I have said here, I would have experienced either in my path, and certainly from my profession. And I just, Brother Adrian and Brother Algernon, you know that I am available to speak to anyone or any group if they need help going through these troublous times. I also want to send a word to couples. You cannot hide your finances from your spouse and expect to get through these waters. Everybody has an idea of what everybody else makes. They know somebody who is your equal that are willing to tell them what you make. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with your partner. If you're sharing, you need to share everything, and that makes for better planning in your household. And men, if you are not good with the money, let the woman manage it. And women, if you are not good with the money, let the man manage it. But everything that deals with finance, the word is trust. I am available, Brother Algernon, Brother Adrian, or anybody who is listening. I am prepared to sit with anybody and walk them through these times or answer any queries that they might have.
Thank you very much. We have been dealing with a ticklish matter, that is managing your finances through the COVID-19 pandemic. Wonderful things were shared. There were difficult things, and when it comes to money, there is no overnight success. A lot of this is one day at a time, one practice at a time, one discipline at a time. Yes, I want to encourage persons who may have some issues to not give up. It's one day at a time. You're not going to be out of your financial woods in 1 day or 2 days. It will take a time. It will take discipline. But as you're faithful in your discipline, as you're faithful in your giving, that you will come out on the other side. Also want to say thanks to Sister John from Trinidad, Brother Mervyn Hope from Barbados, for being on the program this week and sharing of your wealth of experience. I sure hope that persons who are listening don't feel any level of condemnation, but hear strong words and hear encouragement that, this fight is not over and you are not going down. As you continue to trust God, as you continue to do the needful, we will see through to the other end. Again, this has been another program in the series, Courage in Crisis, Conversations of Faith and Mental Health. And I've been your presenter, Reverend Algernon Lewis. And I am looking forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday. Now, we owe you a session with the pastors to talking about the theological implications of COVID-19. And we're going to try to get that done. We are promising to do a session on staying fit during COVID-19. Also want to talk with some young persons, some persons who were supposed to have graduated university and have to do a virtual graduation when you have been looking forward to walking all this time. And also talking to persons in their 30s and so on, the 30-something, 20-something. How has this been faring you? We've had this program, we were saying we would just go for the month of April, then we said, no, let's go for the month of May. And we're thinking, still trying to figure out, should we go any further? If you have any thoughts, don't be afraid to share. And if you have any topics that you'd like for us to handle, please be willing to share them with us. Talk to your pastor, or on this, on the link when you watch it at some point, just send a message through so that we can tackle those topics. Thank you for joining us. May God bless you. And please know that God is watching over us as we go through the season. We will come out. We will be beaten a little bit, but we will be stronger for it. Peace. God bless.
Amen.